channel here or over at Subscribestar, the various other links. So Twitter activists call for, God, these people are they really like first world problems. Get on Twitter and you'll find first world problems. They do anything, like they try to pour oxygen into any kind of fire to try to get something going so they can bring attention to themselves. They live for that dopamine response of likes and retweets. So they're calling for a boycott of some video game that they were never going to play or a movie that they're never. There's both a video game and a TV show coming out, and they're spurging out over both of those things. I don't know if I can use that phrase anymore. That they don't want to give money to these. Like, well, you weren't buying it in the first place, and as a video game, yeah, they're not going to buy that. I'll believe that. But a show, a live stream, or what do you call a series? Oh, you bet your ass they're going to watch that. There's no way they're not going to watch that. These kids loved J.K. Rowling. So first of all, these kids are just brainwashed kids. They're the useful idiots. I mean, they're all the same. Like we were kids once also. The difference is, I will say, when I was younger, I always knew that the adult ideas that adults had, I knew that those were going to become our ideas. Like for some reason, I caught into that idea really young, where I looked at the adults who were saying one thing and other kids were saying the other thing. And I always look at the adults and go, yeah, I might not agree with you in the future, but there's a increased probability that, as you get older, you're going to get more conservative. So as a kid, I was kind of careful with my opinions. Anyway, so these kids, they have no idea what they're saying. I know they're not obviously listening to this because the average audience is male 45 or something. But don't make any decisions that affect your fertility. I was going to say like under 30, but really at any age, don't make any decisions. Why would you? There's no logical reason to do these things, like to castrate yourself or have an elective mastectomy. That's the definition of a impairment of cognition. So there's a government, social media machine that's pushing a narrative. These are the worst people on earth. That it doesn't quite describe. These are the kind of people who fly to islands and are just, like pull off their human masks, and you see these kind of lizard demons underneath, and they abuse kids on islands. Like those are the people who actually do that kind of stuff. And you start going down that rabbit hole, which sounds like a far-right conspiracy theory, and then you start looking at it and you go, but why do these people keep saying it's some far-right, like the cabinet stuff and the pizza stuff, and like why is it all far-right conspiracy theory when there's so many of these cases that come forward? It's like, why is the media defending? Oh, dear God, the media's in on it. Anyway, yeah, I mean, you can hear me, I don't sound crazy. So there's a media machine that's pushing a narrative. These are just like biblically evil people. They want you to take these chemicals and they want you to become patients for life, no matter how long that might be. And I don't mean that as a joke, but I mean because that's one of the tragic side effects of taking this left-hand path. And you look at the 20-year, there's the meme of the 20. It's like, gee, you mentioned the meme. It sure would be sweet if you brought it up. Clinics 20 years ago, BLT type of clinics, and there's like 3 on the map. And then you look at them current day, like, oh, so this is a $1 billion industry that arose out of thin air. Now, morality and ethics aside, it's a brilliant, just from a robotic, I hate to say this, business point of view, it's just a brilliant move where they created, I mean, it's based in human tragedy. It's hard to even say this, but they created something out of thin air. They created this need for a product. And the product, unfortunately, is self-harm because it's castration and mastectomies and hormones. But you've created patients for life. And the insurance or the people are going to have to pay for this for themselves. It's like you've created money out of thin air. You created the desire for something that they don't need. And then you created lifelong patients. It's brutal. I mean, it's brutally efficient. It's something that can only come out of these Frankfurt School type of things. So they're biblically evil. I mean, even if you don't believe in the Bible or religion, Abrahamic religions at all, you can look at this and go, oh, this is some Ragnarok Bible type of like, these are just the worst people on earth. In fact, I don't even think they're coming from Earth at this point. So they have kids brainwashed into thinking that, I'm trying to say, like, it doesn't matter what faith you're adhering to. they're the other, they're the outsider, they're the, like as Stephen King always talked about, the things from within the spaces between the universes. Like these people are that evil where they they feast on human suffering. So they have kids brainwashed into thinking that they identify as something that they're not. Even to say that identifies me as a far right extremist. Oh yeah, hey, you kids shouldn't take hormones or mutilate yourself. Nazi says what? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So the kids are on board because they want attention. Otherwise, you look in the mirror, it's like, oh, I just see a boring fat kid who are not beautiful, athletic, or at the top of the class. They're not musically geniuses. They're just normal people like the rest of us were through high school or through now. Like we're just normal people. And when you get older, you just don't care. You just be what you are, and you're actually pretty well satisfied with this. But it's you really want to hit 30 or 40 with all your pieces intact. I mean, physical fitness, yeah, for sure. Eat vegetables, do some walking, lift a little bit of weights. Wrestling is a great pastime because wrestling is actually very low impact. Um, there's a lot of things you can do to improve yourself, get healthy, cardiovascular fitness, all this kind of stuff. But you want to hit 40, 50, 60 with all those pieces intact. Who's that guy who used to always swim carrying boats? He's did that up until the 60s and 70s. Anyway, they're desperate to do something to stand out. The other side of the issue is that the globalist media and schools are pushing this anti-white narrative. They're Bolsheviks from the Frankfurt School. You can investigate them, but you're not going to be able to do it on the open web. The open web just will not return the results that actually go anywhere. You'll get the surface level Wikipedia results, and then you have to, if you trace down their source materials, eventually you'll get to something, but it's going to take you a very long time. Because if you're searching for something on the open web and you don't know what to look for, you won't find it. You have to have the exact address to go on the open web. You need to deeper, and usually using Odyssey, BitChute. My Telegram and Gab are great places to start. Then you'll be able to know what terms to look for and what websites to go to if you want to go down this path and kind of investigate this type. Oh, what did this guy say? It's something like the leader of a trans mass deletion campaign. I mean, that's the ramblings of an insane person to say that, and I mean that, or a child. Like this is a teenager level thinking, and this might not even be a teenager. It's like somebody younger or somebody who's trapped in a like what is it, oppressive objective defiance disorder. It's some teens and something a something defiance disorder where it's teens and adults who are trapped in this kind of thinking where they just have to defy logical, like you tell someone like, oh, that knife is sharp, and they touch the knife and they cut themselves, or oh, don't do something, and part of their mind immediately wants to do it as a stimulus response, knee jerk reaction. They can't help themselves. You give them like a reasonable bit of instruction to prevent them from doing something dangerous, and their mind just goes there and they have to do it. And there's a lot of kids and some adults who are trapped into that way of thinking. My point being is that kids know that they can voluntarily make themselves an oppressed class just by joining the BLT. Suddenly they're a marginalized and oppressed community of color. You can clearly see what is going on as long as you can wash off political correctness. This BLT idea is not organic. It didn't nucleate from within the kid themselves. It's external. The media, banking, government machine implanted the idea. The Bolshevism we are subject to now is not complex, but it is a foreign concept because the media, banking, government machine won't allow it to be discussed. But all it takes is a little digging, and you put on the They Live glasses, and you go down the rabbit hole. The truth doesn't fear investigation. In fact, that's things like follow the money, who benefits, and the truth doesn't fear investigation. You keep those things in mind whenever you investigate anything, and you see how people respond to you. And if you keep those things in mind, you can look at somebody, you can tell who's a bad actor, who's a bad agent, and who's a good agent, because they're willing to engage honestly and say, oh yeah, by all means, read all the papers you want, listen to all this information you want. No, don't censor yourself. Don't allow others to censor you. Read everything and decide for yourself. It's like those are far right-wing values to say you should read everything. Why would you allow someone to pre-censor ideas for you? Anyway, the truth is a lion. Set it free and it can defend itself. So JK said that men aren't women and different identity groups need their own spaces. Men and women are different, and people in hospitals or shelters would feel more comfortable in a single sex setting. All this is pretty reasonable, but suddenly within the past 5 years, these are far right wing Hugo Boss, Roman Salutian values. JK has nothing to do with perceived harm to the BLT community. The harm is from the community itself. They're statistically the most dangerous people in any room when looking at outward or inward harm. The hyperbolic vitriol towards JK shows a childlike emotional response. These kids were betrayed by a sick society that allows these ticks and leeches to be society's grima, liar, worm tongue character. So the kids are virtue signaling over a video game. The video game doesn't matter. These kids who think they're something they're not should just get on Gab and ask some questions, and always keep that idea in mind. Like the truth doesn't fear investigation, and if the people in their own community tell them not to investigate certain things or not to ask certain questions, then you look at them and realize, oh, they're a gatekeeper too, and they're trapped in the matrix. Because you should be able to ask any question, you should be able to investigate anything, you should be able to chase down any lead, read any paper. It's like no, those are anti BLT papers. Well, if I don't know my opponent's argument, I don't know my own. Why would you want me to know? Oh, well, read those for yourself if you want to be confused. This is what a cult says. It's like when Elijah Schaffer at Durst the Worst used to go around interviewing people on left wing protests, and the handlers would come over and tell them not to give the interviews. It's like, that's cult behavior. Like that's literally what a cult does, is tell you not to talk to outsiders. Don't listen and decide for yourself. It's like, why would you be afraid of making your own decisions? Oh, if people tell you not to make your own decisions, you're in a cult. Plot twist, this has been a cult the whole time. Anyway, actively making lives worse. No, I would say you're making your own life worse, but it's not you, the kid, the child who's doing this. Obviously, it's the society that implanted these ideas into your mind. JK has nothing to do with it, and you, like these kids themselves, have nothing to do with it. And even to be fair, their parents don't have. The parents are victims. These kids are victims. There's this machine that's doing this. Like if these kids really wanted to get to the bottom of this, all they got to do is get on Gab and Telegram and Odyssey and BitChute and start doing some investigations. Like really, before you make a decision that's permanent, you should do a whole lot of investigating. Measure twice and cut once. That kind of don't cut the tree in the wintertime. Pray to God, but row to shore. I mean, you really want to do a lot of background. This isn't deciding whether to go with beets, radishes, or carrots this year. This is something that is, this is a life-changing decision. No, it's reversible. Even when the kids say that, they talk about cross-sex hormones being reversible, puberty blockers, and you go, no, it's not. And then they provide sources, and I go, provide the source. You're the moving party. The burden's on the moving party. So they provide the source. I know I've said this before, but it's so terrifying when you look at it. They provide the source, and I read the source. I go, the source actually is talking about bone plate closure and calcium rates. The paper you're citing to say that it's reversible literally says it's not reversible. Cross-sex hormones are permanent because puberty is a limited window of time. It's a discrete window. It's not permanent. You can't come off these and have the full length of puberty. Like they're literally providing sources in an argument that says the opposite of what they believe to say. It's terrifying that this level of ignorance is pushed in schools. And like you hear the hidden microphone recordings of teachers and doctors themselves who are saying this stuff like, oh yeah, well until we have an elective mastectomy, you can just, if you want them later on, you can just get them put back, implants put in. It's like, but the mammary glands themselves are removed, so you'll never be able to breastfeed kids. It's like, oh, whatever, you can get them put back on. Anyway, yeah, vote harder. Vote harder. There's no political solution. Form militias is what I'm saying. I mean, hiking clubs. Form peaceful, constitution-protected hiking clubs. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Support channel over at Subscribe Star. I'll see you guys all next episode. Whoops.